Well, good morning. Welcome to another day of the Discovery Series. Last time we talked about great work and what great work is to me and why I think it's important. And I shared that through the creation of New Eden Studios, one of the things that I worked through was that I really wanted to produce great work. And that also I'm working through the process with Levi Allen and his crew of really narrowing down the niche that I want to be involved in more, and had a lot of ideas about that already. But it's never a bad thing to go through a process with some structure and some organization and learn a little bit more about yourself or maybe what you enjoy. One of the things that came out during that process, and really the power of this, is not so much the information that Levi puts out, but the community that is behind it. So there's a group of people who interact in a community setting and share information and thoughts. And one of the things that I've been discussing with some of that community of people there is about that I'm a voracious, or can be a voracious, consumer of content. So I can go out there and I'll have a tendency to read a lot of information. I will watch a lot of videos, consuming a lot of content. And I'm sure that you perhaps do the same thing. Perhaps you're consuming this content today, so maybe that's a perfect example. But I think what's interesting about it is that I can use all kinds of excuses to justify why I'm busy consuming content. I can use education. I'm trying to learn something, or I want to learn something about how to do new or exciting things. Sometimes I can use the excuse that it's inspiration, that I just need something to inspire me. So I want to go and watch or see what other people are doing and things like that. It's also, I can often use the excuse that I want to support my fellow creators out there. And while all of those things are true, I do get inspiration from videos that I watch. I do learn a lot by watching video content. And I also do want to support fellow creators that are out there. It's also a great distraction. And I need to be careful about how much time I actually spend consuming content. Now, there's a lot of debate out there about copying other people's work, and we might say inspiration comes from that, but sometimes I think we have a tendency to try to want to do what the other great creators out there do, and I think you can get inspiration from those, but I often wonder how many times we would come up with more original content for ourselves if we just leveraged that thing upstairs a little bit more instead of relying upon what everyone else is doing for comparison. So I think that there's something dangerous when you begin to compare yourself to what everyone else is doing. I think it can sometimes actually stifle your growth by thinking, well, I'm never good enough and no one's ever going to want to buy this because I'm not as good as this person or that person. We can be our own worst critics, right? I say that oftentimes, and that can hamper your growth. It can keep you from creating things and putting them out there because of your concern of what someone else might think when they compare it to the work they see of other people. So I would ask you a question today. How much time do you spend consuming content as opposed to actually creating content? Now, I'm guilty of this. I consume probably hours a day of content, but the amount of content that I actually create is relatively small. Now, we talked last time about quality versus quantity. And I told you that I am most interested in quality. But I do think there is some advantages to quantity, and we talked a little bit about that the last time, that I think that you are honing your craft when you create routinely. I also like to think of the creative process as somewhat like a muscle, and the more you flex that muscle, the stronger it gets. And I find that the more frequently I'm creating content, it does stimulate more of the creative process in me. Creative juices, as they say, flow a little bit more freely when I'm creating routinely. So I think you have to find that balance between quality and quantity. I want to create content that's useful, that adds value to viewers out there. But I also want to create routinely so that I can continue to hone and practice the skills. And I think that That's one of the things when you listen to people like Gary Vee, or if you are consuming that kind of content, you'll hear them say many times that document your process. Well, I think there is something to that, as long as it's not, um, as long as it's useful. I don't want to create content just for the sake of creating content. I want to create content that has value to me and that might have value to someone else. Because what I find is if I'm creating content that's valuable for me or to me, there are probably other people out there who would enjoy that content as well. So I guess when you're thinking about how much content do you consume, I would ask you to think today, how much am I consuming and how much am I creating? And what can I do to find maybe some better balance in that? And how can you improve your content creation by focusing a little more time on it? Maybe it's writing some things out. Maybe it's developing a shot list. Maybe it's just spending the time to think about creating that video today. So as we continue this process of the Discovery series, I wanted you to know some of those thoughts about consuming content versus creating content. I hope you'll go out there today. I hope you'll create something and create some good content that's valuable to not only you, but will most likely be valuable to someone else out there too. So thanks for watching today. See you again soon.